Okay, guys, this is day one of the Progressive Era in the Gilded Age. And remember, we're still going through the same time period from the end of the Civil War, about 1865, to the early 19th. So this is considered actually still Unit 1, the third part of Unit 1. If you remember, we had 1% of the population with 90% of the wealth. So you had some folks that were just crazy rich, and then you had a whole lot of people that were very, very poor, including people working in the factories, the miners, and the farmers. However, this is called the Gilded Era, and it's called the Gilded Era for a reason. Have you ever seen like a pirate movie where they bite into a coin, and basically they're biting into that coin to see if it's gilded, if it's actually covered with a thin veneer of gold, because they used to do that and they put that over lead. So sometimes things are written up that it's just a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful period of time, but you dig a little bit deeper, you bite into that coin, and you find out it is. They had a lot of problems. So we talked about this a little bit with that business cycle, erratic economy, up and down, low wages for the workers. The farmers are in trouble. There's corruption everywhere at every level of government, local, state, and nation. And government's not doing anything to solve problems. Okay, here's some words you need to know, some vocabulary. The word graft, and you'll still hear this today, that's basically cheating or stealing from the public. Now, sometimes it's politicians taking trips or gifts. Sometimes it's monetary. Sometimes it's, to buy their vote. So anytime that basically the public is kind of getting screwed and the politician is getting something in return for it, that is graft. Infrastructure. Now, we talked about that when we talked about urbanization. Infrastructure is all the things that you need in a city: your police department, fire department, your utilities, water, gas, and electric. You need a good road system. You need schools. You need hospitals. You need government buildings. So all of that is considered infrastructure. And with the corruption that was in government, you're going to see these political machines kind of take over. So let's talk about political machines, okay? Political machines are powerful political organizations, and they can be Democrat, they can be Republican, usually found in large cities. And of course, the one that we're going to be talking about the most is New York City, but there were political machines in many of the major cities during this time. The most notorious was in New York City, and it was called the. So this is a famous Thomas Nast cartoon. We're going to be talking about Thomas Nast. And here forefront is, of course, the famous Boss Tweed. And we're going to be doing a little Ed puzzle on Boss Tweed. So this is the Tweed ring, and you see everybody's poking their finger out at everybody else. So it's like, it's not me, it's him, it's him, it's him, it's him. And that was his circle. He was the big boss. And that is why they called him Boss Tweed. And you can see Thomas Nast did a pretty good job of that caricature of him. So this is where the Tweed ring ran its business. And it was a building called Tammany Hall. And then ultimately it's going to be called the Tammany Hall political machine. You might have heard the phrase the Tammany Tiger. So this is the building in New York City where the deeds were done. House here, I'm sorry, was supposed to cost not that much, and it ends up costing the people of New York a great deal of money. So this courthouse, it went up for bid, and they end up stealing millions. They through kickbacks and increasing the bills from contractors, this was supposed to cost the taxpayers about $250,000. But because of the corruption, it actually cost the people of New York $11 million. So if you multiply that out in today's money, that's about $16 billion. okay, look at this photo. It's not that big and fancy a building. So sometimes they just go too far. And when they go too far, the people have had it. And this man is going to expose this corruption. This guy is Thomas Nast. I always think about the nasty political cartoons he did about Boss Tweed. And even people who couldn't read in English, they can look at these political cartoons and they would see that likeness of Boss Tweed and be able to figure out what was going on through the symbolism, the caricature, and so forth. And so he is going to become a nemesis. And if you know the word nemesis, that is somebody to be feared. Here's showing one of the cartoons by Thomas Nast, and you read the caption. That's what's the matter, Boss Tweed. As long as I count the votes, what you gonna do about it? Say. So basically, they're talking about they pretty much can determine who the winner is going to be in any election because they're fixing it. Okay, we were talking about fixing elections now in the worry about our mail-in vote. Okay, that's the famous Tweed Ring cartoon that we looked at. And then this one is, remember we're going to be analyzing cartoons, and it's really important to look closely when you're analyzing a cartoon. If you look here, the dead person here, it says New York. So this is representing New York City. And if you know anything about vultures, vultures feed on the dead. And so here's Boss Tweed, very easily identified. This was one of his henchmen, and you'll see him in quite a few of the other cartoons. So this is a horrible storm, and it says, waiting for the storm to blow over, let us pray. And of course, it's not P-R-A-Y, it's P-R-E-Y. So basically, they're preying on New York City. Okay, let's do a little bit of review. We've already done some of these presidents, but we're gonna review a little bit because this is corruption at the highest level. So remember, we've done 16 Lincoln, 17 Johnson, and now number 18 Ulysses S. Grant, Republican, and his administration is going to be surrounded with corruption. Not him, but the people around him. Remember, he'd been a general, not a politician, and he's going to hire a whole bunch of his friends, and they are not going to be as honest. So the big scandal, the one you need to know, put a little star by this one, is the Credit Mobilier scandal. The Credit Mobilier scandal was basically a railroad scandal. Remember, we talked about the Transcontinental Railroad. Well, they're selling shares in this railroad that really doesn't even exist, and politicians are a part of that, and they're getting political money, they're getting actually national money, and without getting into too much detail, this is going to reach up to the highest levels, with even the vice president being charged with or suspected of taking kickbacks on this Credit Mobilier railroad scandal. Also, they indulged in something called patronage, or the spoils system. And basically what that is you know, you get the job, you get elected, and you put your friends and your family into key jobs, even though they have no qualifications whatsoever. And this actually starts under number 7, Andrew Jackson, but it is rampant in the Grant administration. Enter Rutherford B. Hayes, and if you remember, we talked about him, another Republican, who is going to actually win that election. If you remember, his nickname was his fraudulency, because he makes a deal to get electoral votes from Louisiana, South Carolina, and Florida, and to end Reconstruction. But he himself, now that was his people, he himself really actually was an honest guy. He tried to appoint qualified political people. He didn't make federal employees make campaign contributions, but Huey Long did in Louisiana. And then he actually cleaned house a little bit and fired some employees that were not needed. But he had this kind of umbrella over him of fraudulency, and he is only going to serve one